morning, good afternoon. It is 12:30. In fairness, I woke up at 7:50, went straight back to sleep, and then I have been a lazy bottom for the past God knows how long. To be fair, I decided I was just going to stay in bed and be lazy and have cuddles with Lee and just, yes. So that's what I did. And apparently I snuffled and snorted for the next few hours. So yeah, I have been a lazy moose. So I was probably awake at about 11. And then I've had breakfast, cup of tea and all that jazz. And I've decided to hit the road. We're going to go to a church called St Botolphs Church. Now, if you go back to my playlist of walking the Ridgeway, which I did with my sister 2 years ago, we walked past St Botolphs Church. I'm not sure exactly at what point we walked past St Botolphs Church, but it's a very old church. And I've heard a couple of rumours, well, 3 rumours. One is that the church at this time of year is covered in snowdrops. So it's just pretty to go and see. All the graves, the whole ground is like covered in snowdrops. So that's one thing. We might be a bit late on that. They say February, but there are still snowdrops around now, so hopefully I won't have missed them. So the second thing, which I can't find verified, and I can't find the exact location of it, so it's going to be a bit of a hunting, and I mean maybe someone will be there. It's a very remote church, so maybe not, but we'll see. Is that the Knights Templar, there's some Knights Templar graffiti. I'm assuming that would have been the crosses or something that they used to put on stuff, maybe the cross of the Knights Templar. But yeah, that's inside the church, so if we can get inside we'll have a little hunt around for that. And also, and again I can't find this verified, apparently Nicolas Spargo, if any of you watched Willow the Wisp, he was the creator of Willow the Wisp. Loved that programme when I was little. It freaked me out a little bit, I think, when I was very little, but I have to say it's fantastic, fantastic cartoon. Anyway, he created Willow the Wisp and various other things, and apparently he is buried there. But again, when I've googled his grave, it actually says that there is no known location for his grave. Well, I'm sure there is. I'm sure his family know where he's buried. I mean, he's, you know, it's not that. I think he was born in 1940 something, so it's not like he's, you know, prehistory. All right, we'll get around this bike. Lovely. There we go. So yeah, if we can find his grave, that would be interesting too. So that is today's mission. If you wish to accept, then join me. Go up there? Maybe. Guess we'll find out. There is a main road to the church, but the church road is actually closed. They've got roadworks or something on it, so they've brought us round this way, and I'm hoping I'm not driving down someone's driveway and I'm actually heading still to the church. We'll find out when we get to the bottom, won't we? I don't know. I'm just going to keep driving. I guess we'll find out at some point. Where is it? Where was that? Am I just driving in? No, I think I'm driving into somebody's land. I guess I can always turn around. Go through here. This looks like someone's garden. Well, the sat nav's still taking me this way, so I'm going to keep going. It's not that I've gone wrong. It does look like I'm on someone's, but it could be part of an estate, in fairness. Part of a manor estate or something, maybe. Oh no, here it is, here it is. Here's the church. Okay, let's see if there's any parking. So before we head off, let me give you a little bit of history. This is St Botolph's Church. St Botolph was a saint in 1680 from East Anglia. I believe he built a church in Suffolk, which is on the top of like a remote hills, still up there now. It's somewhere I'd like to go and visit. So this church was believed to have been built by Saxon workers, but under Norman command. This roadway along here that it is on is the Ridgeway, which you'll have seen, like I've mentioned previously, in the Ridgeway walk video. I will put a link at the end of the video as to which video that was, and then you can watch that if you're interested. It is quite a fun series, actually. The Ridgeway walk we did from the very start, which is sort of out near Ivanhoe Beacon, all the way to Avebury in Wiltshire. Not in one go, I might add. I think it was 80 something miles in total, but Jackie and I, walked the whole route 2 years ago. So the Ridgeway is a route that goes from Avebury and originally went all the way up to Norfolk, to the flint mines in Norfolk, and this was a real trade route. All the way along here are there's evidence of barrows, settlements, burials, all sorts of things. There's some really interesting things along the Ridgeway if you ever feel like walking it. But the Norfolk end of it seems to have stopped. It doesn't seem to get much past Ivanhoe Beacon, really. And I don't know if it's just been lost over time or built on or what, but thankfully the bit going towards Wiltshire does actually, it's been protected and it's been looked after, and it's seen as a historical important route. So yeah, that's where we're parked at the moment, currently parked on the Ridgeway. So I'm going to take you in. Let's go and see if we can find this grave. Unfortunately, we've missed the snowdrops by the look of it. They look, yeah, it just looks like grass, very long grass now, but it's still pretty. We'll go and have a look. And I don't know if there's a service on. There's a lot of cars here, but they could just be walking the Ridgeway. So we'll go and have a little wander around the church, and we'll see if we can go inside, and I'll see if I can find this this graffiti from the Knights Templar. We'll see what we can find. Now I've just found this mark on the wall. I don't know if that's got anything to do with the Knights Templar, but it's standing out amongst other stuff. It is on the outside, mind you. I might have to do a little bit of history on what that sign means. Beautifully painted. And such a lovely ceiling. Starry night. This is the original cross that was removed from the main church roof when it was restored back in 2003. I think it dates back to the early 19th century. I have just met a very lovely man called John Sennett, and we just got talking. He just came round the corner as I was coming out of the church and asked if the church was open, and I said yes, and then I saw he was about to carry something heavy out of his car, and I offered to help him carry it, and he said no, he was absolutely fine. And then we got chatting, and he's writing a history of this church, and he's writing a book, but he hasn't got any copies with him, but he's got his original copy here, which he's just lent me. He's gone into the church, so I'm sitting down, and he was telling me all about the history of St Botolph and somebody called King Anne. Yeah, I mean, it's really lovely to have been chatting with him and to have heard some of the history that he's found out about this place. So he's told me to go to page 23 of this. I could read you some bits, couldn't I? He's going to be around for about half an hour. So it says, let's have a little look at this. Okay, Ipsden and Birinus. Okay, so Ipsden is quite close to us. St Birinus, 600 to 650, had been commissioned by Pope Honorius, I'm probably saying these names wrong, I, to convert the Mercians further north, where the Pope believed no Christian missions had reached. But Birinus remained in Wessex, actively building churches, because he said the Wessex folk were so pagan. Yep, some of us are. Birinus had considerable influence in our area after Augustine of Canterbury had initially converted some of the southern English. Converted us pagans. Birinus is said to have arrived from France in 626 and dedicated the original churches in Reading, one dedicated to St Peter and Paul in Checkenden, only 2 miles from Ipsden. He probably did in other parts. Tradition says he founded his first chapel, possibly where he lived, on the slope of Berins Hill. Probably a simple, small wooden chapel close to the Chilterns. Oh no, he said this word. Chilterns. How did he pronounce it? Chilterns Satany, I think he called it, and that is the tribe of the Chilterns, because we are in the Chilterns. Yes, so he would have a simple wooden chapel close to this tribe, 2 miles east of the present church in Ipsden. So he's talking about some of the ancient tracts as well. So he's saying during these darkest of the dark ages, we've now reached between the conflicts and the peasant subsistence culture of farming. People were mostly illiterate and lived in primitive thatched huts in small communities. Hunting in the woodlands, they would sometimes conduct forays to other parts, bartering with their neighbours. Abject deprivation among the clans could have resulted in the desperation of robbery and taking of hostages, which was quite a frequent method to gain advantage. So imagine along these tracks, this Ridgeway, that probably would have happened. I know it certainly did along the road that I live on, back in the day. So it says here the Chilterns were so impenetrable that even the Romans had previously given up. Earliest man often chose the hilltops for his habitation, when travel was less important, and the earliest flint and bone tools, have been found there in the many parts, particularly in the northern Chilterns. Across the hills, various tracks or ridgeways mostly avoided the swampy areas of lower elevations. I did notice that, in fact. A lot of them did avoid the swampy areas. The swampy areas were very low down. Water would have been the biggest problem with colonising the hills, since there was plenty of timber for building and fencing their stock. And again, that goes back to the well, doesn't it, that we went and saw the other day. If you've not seen it, go and check out the Maharaja's Well video I did a couple of days ago, because that was built due to a lack of water in the Chilterns. Below Swancombe vicinity, there are at least 4 ancient wells that the residents might have used, and one of them is below Berrins Hill, near Berenice's likely chapel. Swancombe has approximately 300-foot deep well, which I think will have been a later achievement since few people are thought to have been there. Okay, so there's a well here somewhere as well. People use rivers a great deal for travel. Wow, up to 60 to 90 miles per day. Elsewhere they trod paths and many other tracks like the ancient Icknield Way. That's another route I want to do, the Icknield Way. Driving goats, geese, sheep and cattle to market. Sometimes I think that fate just steps in, doesn't it? So here's me coming, although I did forget to ask this guy about the graffiti from the Knights Templars and about the gravestone. I'll go back and have a look in a minute. But I have just had such a lovely chat with this guy, and I've just said to him, please, when your book is published, I'd love to read it, because those little bits that I was reading I found really, really interesting. And I would love to know more about this area. And I was pronouncing that Chilterns, Statons, or I can't remember how he pronounced it. It's Sistens. I can't remember how he pronounced it, but it's Old English apparently. And yeah, it's an old English phrase. He just had such interesting stuff to share. And he was saying, I'm boring you. I was going, no, you're not. This is really interesting. And for somebody who's not religious, myself, you know, it's not, for me, it's not about the faith that people have had. It's, for me, it's about the people that came through this part of the country and their story and what they did. Now, he was saying this church, oh, see, I'm so rubbish with dates back to 1170 something. I think he said 1117, 1170 something. Oh, I can't remember. 11 something. But he's absolutely convinced there was a church previous to it. So yeah, that was some of the stuff that he was saying about in his book. And I wish I had longer to spend chatting to him. I really do. But he's going off to another thing now to find cuckoo pens, which there's not much evidence left of, but apparently there's this big history locally about these very ancient cuckoo pens. So he's gone off to go and explore that and get the history of it and see if they can find any evidence of it. So yeah, he obviously leads a very interesting life. There we go. I found it. Nicolas Spargo, 1921, not 40s, 1921 to 1997. Writer, artist and filmmaker. I wonder if the Willow and the Wisp comes and visits him. If the wisp comes and wisps through the trees. Maybe. That sounds lovely. Trees talking to me. So there you go. That was today's van adventure. You never really know what you're going to find until you hit the road and come looking. Yeah. And I've definitely been able to share more info about this area and the history of this area and how this church came to be. And other local churches, by meeting this nice chap that I met, John. So that was an added bonus. Anyway, I think this video is quite long enough. So thank you very much for watching, and I will see you all tomorrow.